In the days when Israel wandered far from the ways of the Lord, a heavy shadow fell upon the land. The Midianites, a fierce and countless people, descended upon the fields and homes of Israel like locusts, consuming all in their path. They came not alone, but with their camels and allies, leaving Israel impoverished and desperate. The people cried out to the God of their fathers, yearning for deliverance from their oppression. Amid this turmoil, in the village of Ophrah, there lived a young man named Gideon, son of Joash. He was a humble and cautious man, tending to his duties quietly, seeking no glory. One day, as the sun cast its golden light over the hills, Gideon was found threshing wheat in a winepress, hiding from the ever-looming Midianite threat. It was there, amidst his labor, that the angel of the Lord appeared to him. The angel's presence was radiant, and his words carried the weight of heaven. "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior," he declared. Startled, Gideon looked up, unsure if the greeting was meant for him. "Pardon me, my lord," he replied, his voice tinged with doubt. "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are all the wonders our ancestors told us about? Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us to the hand of Midian." The angel's gaze did not waver. "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" Still uncertain, Gideon questioned, "How can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." The angel assured him, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." Gideon, though hesitant, asked for a sign to confirm this divine encounter. He prepared an offering of meat, unleavened bread, and broth, placing them on a rock as instructed. The angel touched the offering with the tip of his staff, and fire sprang from the rock, consuming it. In that moment, the angel vanished, leaving Gideon in awe and fear. "Alas, sovereign Lord," Gideon exclaimed, "I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." The Lord's voice reassured him, "Peace. Do not be afraid. You are not going to die." Strengthened by this encounter, Gideon built an altar there and called it "The Lord is Peace." But his journey was just beginning. That night, the Lord gave Gideon his first command: "Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper altar to the Lord your God on the top of this height. Using the wood of the Asherah pole, offer the second bull as a burnt offering." Though fearful of his family and the townspeople, Gideon obeyed. Under the cover of darkness, he took 10 of his servants and carried out the Lord's instructions. By morning, the altar of Baal was destroyed, and a new altar stood in its place. The townspeople were enraged and demanded Gideon's death, but Joash, his father, defended him. "Are you going to plead Baal's case?" Joash asked. "If Baal really is a god, let him defend himself when someone breaks down his altar." From that day forward, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, meaning "let Baal contend with him." The Midianites and their allies gathered in the valley of Jezreel, a vast and formidable army. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the men of Abiezer to follow him. Word spread, and warriors from Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali joined him. Despite the growing numbers, Gideon's heart was still plagued by doubt. He sought confirmation from God, laying out a fleece on the threshing floor. "If you will save Israel by my hand as you have promised," he prayed, "let the fleece be wet with dew and the ground dry." The next morning, the fleece was drenched, but the ground was dry. Yet Gideon's uncertainty lingered. "Do not be angry with me," he pleaded, "but let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece. This time, make the fleece dry and the ground covered with dew." God, in his patience, granted the sign. The following morning, the fleece was dry and the ground was wet. Gideon's faith was fortified. Gideon's army gathered, 32,000 strong, ready to face the Midianites. But the Lord had other plans. "You have too many men," he said. "I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me, saying, 'My own strength has saved me.'" God instructed Gideon to send home any who were fearful. 22,000 men departed, leaving 10,000. But the Lord said, "There are still too many men." He directed Gideon to bring them to the water for a test. Those who lapped water with their hands to their mouths were chosen. Those who knelt to drink were sent home. In the end, only 300 men remained. With this small band, God promised to deliver Israel. That night, the Lord spoke to Gideon. "Get up, go down against the camp, because I'm going to give it into your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Ophrah and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged." Gideon and Ophrah crept to the edge of the Midianite camp, where they overheard a man recounting a dream. "I had a dream," he said. "A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed." His companion interpreted the dream. "This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands." Encouraged, Gideon returned to his camp. He divided his 300 men into 3 companies, equipping each with trumpets and empty jars with torches inside. At his signal, they surrounded the Midianite camp. For the Lord and for Gideon, they shouted, blowing their trumpets and smashing the jars. The Midianites, startled and confused, turned on each other with their swords. The survivors fled, pursued by Gideon's men. The victory was total, and Israel was freed from Midianite oppression. After the battle, the Israelites urged Gideon to rule over them. "You, Gideon, your son, and your grandson," they said. But Gideon refused. "I will not rule over you," he declared, "nor will my son. The Lord will rule over you." However, Gideon made a request, that each man give him an earring from their share of the plunder. From these, he fashioned an ephod, which he placed in his hometown of Ophrah. Sadly, the ephod became a snare, leading Israel into idolatry once more. Gideon's life was marked by faith and flaws, courage and caution. He judged Israel for 40 years, and during his lifetime, the land had peace. Yet after his death, the people returned to their old ways, forgetting the God who had delivered them. Thus the story of Gideon reminds us of God's power to use the weak and the doubting for his purposes, and the importance of staying faithful to the one who brings victory. Shalom, Brethren.